Hi, Andy.
Hello, how are you doing?
Oh my God, it's been a morning.
Oh,
Before we came on, y'all, Andy and I were talking about how emotional I am this morning. You can tell my nose is a little bit red. I've been crying all morning because I hit that proverbial. I think it was someone did a tweet about how we're talking about the flooding in New York, but no one's talking about the flooding in Philadelphia.
mhm.
And I just went, and then I looked outside and there's smoke in the sky here in Oregon. And I was like, I just want rain. And I just lost it.
Mhm.
So that's how I am this morning, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing okay actually. I think I'm seeing a lot of that. Like for me last year, there was a moment where in the area I grew up, the next thing was fire tornadoes. I'm like, who had fire tornadoes on their Armageddon bingo card of 2020?
No,
And
fire
so
tornado.
it's fire tornadoes. And so it's just there's a lot coming at us at all directions all the time right now.
Well, I'm really excited you've decided to join me for coffee hour with Missy and Liz. Liz is on hiatus and I'm just really thrilled we get to talk today. So would you tell our audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Andi Blackwell, and I am a third generation real estate agent that has been, I've been actively licensed and practicing real estate in Oregon for 9 years now, and Washington for about 3. So in real estate terms, I'm a geriatric real estate agent because I'm at nearly a decade. That's like the version of being the geriatric millennial, right?
Yeah.
And so what was hard for me was seeing all of the trainings that real estate agents are given and realizing that nothing had changed since my dad had his own brokerage. Everything was still using the same language, the same scripts, the same, you have to get on the phone and call. Like it was essentially boiler room training. And my thought process was, but we've had all of these things that have engaged us in community. We have social media, we have ways to interact with people through business networking that weren't as common back then. We have DocuSign and fax machines. Like everything had changed, but the training had not. And I started to correlate that with the fact that the studies are regularly showing, even, as 2014 was 87% of real estate agents don't last more than 5 years. And what I've been seeing is it's actually, I think the newer statistics were 80% leave after 2 years. And one of the things that I started to see is people that I thought would be very, very successful. And then all of a sudden they would just disappear. And I'd ask what happened to them. And the responses were always kind of similar. It was, oh, they didn't want it bad enough, or they weren't willing to do the work, or we had these team standards as far as lead generation that they didn't meet. And I realized, for me, that pervasive culture of, well, you're only going to be successful if you do this was actually chasing people out, especially because the language, the words that they were using, what they were requiring people to do is not current. It's, I mean, when I was doing trainings, even 4 years ago, the trainings where you have to call people, you can't text them. I'm like, if I call my clients, they actually, are like, is your husband okay? Did somebody die? What's going on? Like, we live in a different world now, and things weren't keeping up. So my joke at this point is I'm a happiness coach for real estate agents. Nice. Because I really dig into what makes us happy. That happiness is supposed to be an end game, not the byproduct of what we're doing. So where are you showing up that you can be happier? You're not happy if you're not showing up in your key relationships. You're not happy if you're not being productive. You're not happy if you don't have systems in place. You're not happy if you don't sleep and eat. And I cannot tell you how many times I get handed a calendar by somebody and I go, okay, can you show me where you're eating and like where you're going to get this magical food that's going to appear in front of you? Because we're so conditioned not to take care of ourselves. And that's really where I step in, as I kind of fight for people to take care of themselves and stand in their own true selves.
That's really, really good. There's a couple of things that I think are so remarkable about what you just said. The first is through all these interviews we've done with all these women in mortgage in particular, they're like, it's not like I grew up saying I'm going to be a mortgage broker, right? Mm-hmm. And here you are, a third generation real estate agent.
Yes. However, I was also not going to grow up to be a real estate agent.
Right. I think it's so interesting how people get into this line of work. And I think one of the common themes that I hear, especially among women who are in real estate and in mortgage, is that they want to help people find that dream, right? They want to help people really connect to their home, like the space where they live. And before we came on, you and I were talking a little bit, like I was talking about how I just don't believe we are meant to have all of this information coming at us all the time, especially when it's like tornadoes and floods and hurricanes and fires and droughts and like pandemics.
We're a little burnt out on disaster bingo at this point.
Disaster bingo, like the bingo card has 777,000 spaces now. And it's just
and we're still almost going to have a blackout.
And in the meantime, those of you who are in the housing and mortgage world are having to deal with these weird fluctuations and things that y'all have never seen. And in the meantime, you're supposed to be happy-go-lucky and using these systems that were created 30, 40, 50 years ago that are completely outdated. So how do you help people thrive right now?
So one of the things I do is I try and bring the unique perspective that being a third generation realtor offers to the table. So when people are talking about fluctuations that we've never seen before, one of the things I try and bring home is real estate is cyclical and we've always seen fluctuations. Like if you're tracking real estate and housing, there is an 8 to 10 year recession. So for me, like I remember very clearly in California, the construction crash in the 90s, because my parents, they were in real estate, construction, land development. My dad actually built subdivisions at one point. So I really grew up in a lot of those things and feeling the immediate consequences of things like food and housing insecurity when that collapsed. Yeah. And then there was the tech bubble in the 2000s. And then what happened with the Great Recession that really, I think, caught so many people unaware is that was earlier than the cycle would have predicted.
Right.
So then when I was having conversations with buyers and sellers afterwards, I was able to show them how like the graph went and it went down like this, but that was an artificial drop. And now we're back here. Right. What we're seeing right now is a lot of supply and demand. Some of it is because of that Great Recession that the home builders just didn't get caught up. And now we're seeing a lot of what I'm going to call interesting behavior regarding supply and demand, where, I mean, nobody's building starter homes anymore. Yeah. Nobody's building things like that. And one of the problems too is the opportunities we have for affordable housing, looking at things like modular or manufactured homes. People have such a stigma associated with it that they're not really willing to enter that area. So I have conversations with that. I walk people through a lot of honesty exercises, I would say, more with internal honesty than anything else. I will tell you that almost everybody who comes to me when I ask them why they're in real estate, the first thing they say is because I want to help people. And my immediate response is, no, that's why you go into social work. Why did you go into real estate?
I love that so much as a social worker, because I am a social worker. I have a master's degree and a bachelor's, PhD in social work. I love that. That is exactly why you go into social work, but that's not why you go into real estate.
It is not. And the thing is, people will entrench their mindset in that. And then they start putting weird things on their cards, like I'm a home consultant or I'm, a home dream maker. And I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. First of all, now nobody knows what you actually do.
Clarity is key.
Yep. And second of all, why are you vilifying money that way? Why are you vilifying sales that way? Why are you saying that I'm not a salesperson because that's a bad thing? Because if you go into a department store and somebody gives you great service, that makes you feel good. That's not a bad thing. Wow. And why is it not okay to say when people ask me why I'm in real estate, my answer is pretty simple at this point, because I can't make this much money doing anything else that I am this good at. And I use real estate to help me in my other passions. Like real estate fuels my life. It fuels the time that I get to spend with my family. It fuels the time that I get to spend in the causes and the charitable groups that I'm passionate about. Real estate fuels that. I'm not in real estate for real estate's sake. There are some people I know who are, but I always say that, like, if you were completely and totally like independently wealthy and didn't have to work, and you're telling that you're still going to do real estate for real estate's sake, you're probably not my people for coaching. But if you're telling me that you want to grow something amazing so that you can like fuel purpose for yourself and others, let's talk.
That's so great. I love that so much. First of all, I love that as a woman, you are admitting that you want wealth. Because so many women, I mean, we were talking with one of our other speakers, Soraya Shmali, who was talking about how women traditionally, even when they're filling out loan applications, will write that they make less money than they actually do, and inflate their husband's salaries and deflate their salaries, right? Like they do that. Women do that all the time. We undervalue our wealth constantly. Mm-hmm. And I love that you are so outspoken about it, because I think it models for other women how to use that language and how to talk about why they're really doing what they're doing. Because listen, I love coaching. I'm really good at it. I love like doing the readings that I do, and I love doing the work that I do, and I love the writing that I do. I love all of that. And I love that I get to make so much damn money doing it. I love it. And people get mad at us mm-hmm. when we talk about it as women. And I love that you are breaking that barrier. I mean, it's so many truth bombs you just laid down in that little snippet. So here's something that I'm really curious about, as we're, you know, we've had a lot of women, we've been talking a lot about why Liz and I are doing this conference. And it was really because one of the things you just mentioned earlier, the trainings that are happening in the mortgage industry are very similar to the ones you're talking about in real estate. It's the same 5 white guys getting up on a stage saying the same damn thing that they've been saying for 30 years about how to do your mortgages and how to do your flow and all that kind of stuff, and your CRMs and all that stuff. And we really wanted to give women in mortgage the opportunity to disrupt that narrative. And to really talk about how they do their work, because it's very different. When women are dealing with money and people, we do things completely differently, because we're the community builders, and that's what we do. We build community and bring it together. So I'd love to talk with you a little bit about language and what you're going to talk about at the conference, because I think I'm really excited about what you're going to talk about at the conference, because nobody, I have not even heard it ever put this way, but you and I were talking about how you're going to talk about language that we use around us to cut out the noise, and how to cut out the noise. And can you, first of all, I'd love to talk about introvert and extrovert and language, and some of the stuff, the buzzwords that people are using in coaching and in the way that we talk to each other, and how you're going to disrupt that narrative a little bit at the conference.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of it.
So one of the things that I like to focus on is the fact that we see trainings that are geared towards sound bites. Instead of actually getting deeper things, people are looking for that sound bite, that Instagrammable moment, and it actually robs the authenticity of what's going on. I think if we're not careful, success is going to become a dirty word. And I just say that as a woman in the industry, and I've been told some interesting things. I was told that I would never be successful unless I wore lipstick and mascara. I was told that I would never be successful unless I was willing to answer a phone call from a lead while I was putting my daughter down to bed. That needed to take priority in my life.
Yep.
And what was interesting to me was always being taught by people who had other people doing those things for them. Like they were teaching people to make sacrifices that they didn't have to make in their life. Or the reverse. I think one of the things that was an impactful moment for me is I was lucky to have a special training done by somebody who was extremely high up in a very prominent brokerage. And they were talking about this mission they had for real estate that I was really excited about, because it aligned with some of my values. And then they said that with this mission that they were on the road and they hadn't been home and seen their kid at home in 180 days. And my immediate thing was, that's great. That's not my life. My life is not, I see my kid when they can come fly out to me and we can spend time. That's not my life.
No.
We use a lot of language, and most of it's based on like the buzzwords, trends, sound bites you were talking about. And we are at such capacity, like what you were talking about. Like we don't have time for anything else at this moment. And so then we start to move towards labels. So like that introvert, that extrovert, they've become labels of convenience. Well, I don't want to do this because I'm an introvert, and that explains everything. I like to do this because I'm an extrovert, and that explains everything. Why can't we just be people? I am a person that sometimes I really love going out and talking to people in a good party. And sometimes I want to sit on my couch with a blankie and a cup of tea, and I want to growl if anybody comes near me, because that's like my sacred quiet time. Like, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden I'm now an introvert or now an extrovert. I am just living in my moment. But when we're trying to deal with other people and we're past our bandwidth, we look to those labels to then assess how we're going to manage them or how we're going to work with them, instead of really getting to know people. And it's caused kind of that's probably my biggest grieving point of like the last probably actually 5 years, because it's all of these things predated 2020. A lot of things were already in motion to set us up for the really couple hard years that we had. The loss of community, the thinking that seeing what somebody's doing on Facebook and Instagram means that you actually know what's going on. All of those things set us up for where we are now, where we go to the label instead of the person.
I think it really takes away from the nuance of living. Like it takes us out of curiosity, and we don't ask questions anymore, and we don't wonder about ourselves and our capacity for expansion when we're putting ourselves in these labels and in these boxes and squishing ourselves into, well, I must be this way because I'm an introvert, right? Or whatever it is, that when we label ourselves like that, it stops us from expanding.
Yeah. And the reason is that there's profit in those labels.
Yeah.
Like when you go on Instagram and you see the influencers and they're talking about this or that, like full confession, there's books that I just haven't read because I look at the title and I'm like, that's not my thing. And because I can hear where it's gearing. I'm the sort of person who I don't like asterisks. I don't like asterisks for what I'm doing. So I'm a person, I'm a human being, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. But when it talks about things like lady bosses or boss ladies, I'm like, okay, but I wouldn't go up to somebody and call them a dude boss. So please don't call me a lady boss. Like the words we use are important. I think we were talking about my big pet peeve earlier too. And this is one that just gets me every time. And it's basic and extra. And I remember when like that trend first came out, I was like, when did basic become a bad thing? Like when you look at the hierarchy of needs, when did we start requiring self-actualization over basic?
Before food. Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you Google search Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a pyramid that looks like this. And at the very bottom is food, clothing, and shelter.
Yep.
Basic needs. And then you go up the pyramid, there's like 5 levels, and then you get to self-actualization at the top. And usually that doesn't actually happen. That's what they teach us in social work school, is that most of us don't hit self-actualization before we die because we're busy doing all these other things in between.
Yeah. It literally takes that community and that village to get anywhere close to it.
Oh God, I love what you are saying about basic.
But yeah, basic needs, it's something that's important. It's something that should be celebrated. And then extra. Why is extra the best? Why is overwork and hustle and extra and all those things? Why is that celebrated and basic and simple condemned? And what does that do to us then? Like with what we internalize too, especially as women and as caretakers, then making sure that everybody is taken care of and covered isn't good enough. It's that constant nagging from the world and at the back of our head, at the back of our minds. And that thinking about it, if you are covering the basic needs, then you're just letting everybody down. And you're not just letting everybody down now, but you're letting down every future generation of women and everyone who's come before you. There's just this intense stigma, and it's almost like a fog or a weight that goes on people when they dial into these premises. So one of the things that I work through with my coaching clients is they'll tell me something like along those lines of, well, we just got this, and I wasn't able to do this. And my response is, and what's the matter with that?
Yeah.
This concept of rejecting the premise to just move forward in your own space and be okay with that. It's not something that we get to hear a lot in our industry.
Yeah. I think it's just so important. And I love what you're saying. What popped into my head was going the extra mile. Like that's what does that mean? Because for each one of us, going the extra mile is completely different for every single one of us. Like what is going to take me, what is extra mile to me might sound completely overwhelming or underwhelming to someone else. And what you're talking about with these labels is really that we're pigeonholing our individuality.
Yep.
While at the same time forcing us to be individuals, but we have to follow. I love what you said about when we're gearing towards sound bites, which robs us of authenticity, because it's so true. We're pigeonholing ourselves into how we should be instead of how we are.
Yep. And it robs us of that individuality, and that also that chance to shine.
Yeah.
To really step into what makes you amazing and wonderful. I think one of my favorite sessions with a client started with us just writing across the board, if it's not fun, don't do it.
Yes.
Because she was becoming miserable in the activities of her business.
Yeah.
And that's when you lose a business, when you start doing everything that you're supposed to do, but you're not actually going to do, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not in your
shitty shoulds.
Yeah, should land.
I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, stop shooting on yourself. Like, knock it off. Andi, I'm so pleased that you are joining us for the conference. We're so honored to have you with us and as one of our sponsors. Like, we're so excited. We hope you'll spread the word far and wide. The conference is online, and so everybody can attend no matter where they are located. So we're really trying to sell those tickets and get people signed up and get people excited. The conference is in February. We're so honored to have you as a sponsor and one of our speakers. I'm so pleased we're connecting in this way. If people want to find you, what is the best way for them to find you?
AndiBlackwell.com.
Great. We'll put the link to that in the comments.
Yep. Or I will comment on this too, and just send me a message, holler at me.
Great. That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Andi. We really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for joining me.